Just leave it on.
Welcome to tonight's Finance Committee meeting as we begin work on the 2026 budget. This will again be a challenging year. Major projects are before us, including the town hall renovations, and careful planning will be needed. One important change is that, under the strong mayor's powers, the budget presented in November will formally be the mayor's budget. I want to note that Mayor Cookett has maintained the Finance Committee process, allowing us to continue with the open and collaborative approach we have used in past years. Tonight, we will review the results of the 2026 budget survey, providing insight into community priorities. We will also consider the preliminary 10-year capital plan, which sets out the framework for next year's capital and discretionary budgets. Public meetings will follow on both the operating and capital budget at future council sessions, giving further opportunities for engagement before final adoption. Thank you for your commitment to this process. With that, we'll move into the agenda. And a confirmation of the agenda.
That the committee confirm the agenda of Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025.
Mover, please. Member Barber, Member Chapman. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Member Barber?
In accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, I, William Barber, have a pecuniary interest with respect to 6.2.2 Capital Discretionary Budget 2025. Specifically, this section is related to Aylmer Fire Department. I therefore declare a disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof as follows. I am further a volunteer firefighter for the Aylmer Fire Department. I do therefore agree not to take part in the discussion of or vote on any question in respect to the matter, and shall not attempt in any way, whether before, during, or after the meeting, to influence the voting of any such question.
Thank you. We don't have any delegations this evening. Minutes of the previous Finance Committee meeting.
That the committee adopts the minutes, noting no errors or omissions.
Mover and a seconder, please. Member DeRosa, Member Cookett. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Action items.
That the correspondence regarding the budget from Dorothy Ruat McKenzie and Bill Murch be received for information.
A mover and a seconder, please. Member Oslach, Member Rahi. Any discussion? Member Oslach?
Please, Mr. Chair, please excuse my speech. So I have two comments. One for first letter. Dorothy, I applaud you on your trees on Aylmer streets. I agree with you. We need more trees. I love trees. The second comment on the cemetery on Queen Street. I noticed that it was Bill Murch had William Street. I know it's on Queen Street. I've been there before. So it was in the sword of the council for the last 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Member DeRosa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can staff clarify whether there is currently a budget line or subline within the municipal budget that covers downtown tree planting initiatives?
Heather, did you want to answer that?
I can comment on the capital budget. they wouldn't be in the capital budget as an item. But there is, landscaping, not specifically in the operations budget for any sort of landscaping or trees would be included in that. So when we get to the operations budget, we can look at that.
Member Oslage, is it a follow-up to your
Yeah,
comments?
yes.
Or that comment? Go ahead.
I prepared 2 years ago with the Director of Operation at that time. I prepared 6 trees for the BIA and the adopters, the BIA adopted them on Tupple Street. They're there. So the tree bylaw was in the town website. You can see them there. Yeah.
Thank you for that update. Further comments? Seeing none, we have a motion to receive the correspondence. It's moved and second. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Staff reports. Director of Legislative Survey Services, the 2026 budget survey results. Can we have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Member Rahi, Member Chapman. Owen, is that yours?
Yes. So thank you, members of the committee. This report provides the committee with an overview of the public input received during the summer budget engagement process. The survey was intended to gather residents' feedback on service levels, community priorities, and budget considerations for 2026. We had 271 responses this year, with a number of comments as well submitted. They're all included in the staff report as an attachment. The 5 major themes we picked up on, again, was recreation facilities and services. Residents wants to see upgrades to our parks, our trails, our pool, and our programming in that area. Roads and traffic, again, was a major concern, with residents noting road conditions, traffic flow, and safety as being on their mind. Library services was mentioned frequently throughout the responses, with opinions being divided on the library's location. Affordability was a major theme as well, with residents emphasizing the importance of limiting tax increases as well as prioritizing projects carefully. And then finally, public safety and enforcement. There was a significant number of comments about the police force visibility as well as requesting stronger traffic enforcement or bylaw enforcement. The report before you today is just to be received as information. The results are intended to help inform the operating and capital budget discussions. The results have been provided to all members of staff as well as the Elmer Police Service management. New this year, the theme was budget education, so we did a series of videos that we featured on social media as well as our engagement platform. We believe they were successful in delivering plain language information about municipal budgeting. And then another new communication item is we'll be doing a series of social media posts addressing some of the questions raised in the comments of the budget survey, addressing some misconceptions or just open questions about our services. So in closing, we do believe this continues to be a valuable tool for the town and a valuable way to engage the public in our budgeting process. And I can answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Owen. Are there any questions from the members of the committee? Member DeRosa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a comment and I have a question as well. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the residents that participated in this year's budget survey. It's something I look forward to reading every year. So to all the residents that did participate, the 271, thank you very much. First, there was a strong interest in incorporating more public seating throughout town. As co-chair for the Parks and Beautification Committee, I want to highlight that there are developments underway on this matter specifically. In late summer of 2024, I brought forward a proposal for commemorative seating and beautification policy, similar to those in Central Elgin, St. Thomas, and Tillsonburg. Since then, staff and the committee have been working to finalize that policy, which will soon be brought before council. So I believe this initiative will directly support residents' requests for more seating in public spaces. Lastly, there was a number of responses that highlighted the importance of economic development, improved business services, or downtown revitalization. So my question to staff, if someone can answer, is what can we do this budget year to support progress in this area specifically? Thank you.
And who would like to head that answer up? Andy?
Certainly, I can try to answer. Yeah, it has been a difficult time for a lot of businesses, certainly with the CBRE pullback that they saw, where some of them were returning funds. We're still seeing significant new businesses come to Elmer and establish in Elmer. And we've seen Elgin Incentives, and we're looking at our own CIP program with a hope to update it for next year to provide more supports. But generally, Elmer is doing well, but we look forward to continuing to work with any businesses and hearing from businesses and hearing from the BIA or anybody who might have ideas about how we could better support them in any way.
Thanks, Andy. Member Rahi?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess just a question. I'd like to mimic what Councillor Desrosiers said, and it was nice seeing some feedback, and there was a lot of comments to read. Is 271 responses good for a town of 8,000, or is that kind of an average, or it seems out of 8,000 people, only 271 to actually say something seems low to me, but is that kind of normal?
One?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Rahe, I would suggest that that's a normal level of responses for an annual budget survey. It's not as many as we had last year, but it is a strong response still.
Thanks.
I have a question, perhaps Andy can answer it. In previous years, a couple of different businesses have used funding to help them make their businesses wheelchair accessible. I believe that is a project that can be covered. The province intended to make 2025 the year when all businesses had to be handicapped accessible. Has that changed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a great question. No, it hasn't changed. One of the challenges, I think, in that legislation is that the AODA directorate is almost a toothless tiger. There isn't a lot of inspectors going around. They reply mostly to complaints about specific businesses, but certainly if there's any way that we can support businesses becoming accessible, sometimes it's something as simple as us being willing to enter into an encroachment agreement so they can put a ramp on our portion of sidewalk, and we're more than willing to undertake that work and get that process done for any business that wants to improve their accessibility. Sorry.
Are there any other further questions? Seeing none, again, we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor of receiving the report? And the motion is carried. 622, Director of Financial Services, 2026 capital budget. Overview, Heather?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you and to members of the committee, the mayor and staff have estimated the capital and discretionary budget for 2026 would be around $8.4 1.06 million, plus additional carry forward items for 2025, which will be determined closer to year end. So we leave those for the next status update. There are transfers between reserves that still have to happen for funding projects in 2025. Some of the remaining EECC projects, we're still waiting to figure out those final invoice amounts, expecting another $325,000 to come out of asset management to fund those. The committee and council can expect a report explaining that. Also for Parks and Recreation, there's a few more projects that that need to be funded. If we can get them done before year end, I will include that transfer. So overall for 2026, the only unfunded projects, and what I mean by unfunded means they're not funded out of their own reserves currently, are recreation projects, parks projects, and EECC. So with respect to the 2026 budget, those ones I'm suggesting, if the committee wishes, we would move about $770,000 to the Parks and Recreation Reserve and around $1 million for the EECC in order to fund those projects. So that's why you're seeing different information on the funding portion of it. So with the pecuniary interest declared, I'd like to start with fire and then come back, have William come back, and then continue on with the rest of the projects discussed.
Thank you. Can you get that fly? Okay.
All right, so keeping with fire, we're doing replacement of only immediately required items. So that's the theme of the budget this year, just requiring or replacing things that are immediately required. We do know we have vehicle replacements and certain upgrades that need to happen. The chief has agreed that, you know, these are the urgent items for this year that need to be replaced. So he's requesting to replace $35,000 worth of SCBA units. Again, these were, the reason why we're having to replace them so urgently, so close together, is because they all expired really at the same time. So that's the only item that fire is proposing for capital for 2026.
Questions on the fire side? Okay.
We're just going to do a resolution, Andy, just on this section.
just on this, okay.
So that with regard to the Elmer Fire Department, council acknowledged the proposed 10-year capital budget and the described work as presented for the fire department, and that council directs staff to present the the final 2026 capital and discretionary budget for the fire department for review and adoption at a future meeting.
Thanks, Phil. I'll move her in a seconder, please. Member DeRosa, Member Chapman. Further discussion? Call in the question. All those in favor? And the motion is carried.
So just a few notes before we start with the other departments. As you're aware, the EECC board, I'd like to give them the privilege to digest and approve the capital projects before we, before coming to council. Basically, we've left it remain unchanged from the prior budget. Again, I've stated that we would have to fund any of those projects out of asset management. We currently do not have enough money in the EECC reserve for the town of Elmer to complete those projects. Also, police service, I'd like to give them the opportunity. They're going to be going through their capital budget in September. It hasn't been presented to the board. I've provided the amounts in there just for the roll-up, but I'd like to give them the opportunity to discuss them before we bring those to council or the committee. So that said, the projects that I think we can consider and discuss tonight, if we start with operations, roads, sanitary, sewer, and water, the pavement program, staff feel that the $275,000 is still manageable for this program. So Terry has put together a little map to show Again, the mill and pave program utilized for the next few years. So for the most part, this shouldn't change unless through inspection, major repairs come up. I don't know what page that map's on, but. Let me see. It would have been the yeah, sorry, it's in the capital budget attachment page. 28, yeah, so there we go. Similarly, the sidewalk program, so this program seems to be successful also, connecting the missing links. Terry's also put together a map for that. So currently, the priorities that we have right now shouldn't change again unless there's some major, development or major repair that needs to happen for that. So for 2026, the projects are highlighted there. So the street that we would like to target for 2026 is the next on the list, which is South Street. There's already been previous staff reports and consultation happening. So we were hoping to do, as we did with Elk Street, where we present the fall tender amount. We include it in the final capital budget, hoping for the best, that we get better tender results. If we do get better tender results, the plug amount that would be reduced is out of asset management. I don't like to use our asset management as much as we can. I'd rather use OSIF money or, the water and sewer money. But at the end of it all, if the tender comes out to the estimate in this capital budget, that's the amount that we would have. The new dump, so we need a new snowplow. It's over 15 years old, and it's a frontline vehicle for the operations crew. So that is one that we have a pretty good estimate on. We believe there's a couple different municipalities that have recently tendered for a similar vehicle. We believe that our estimate is very close. We had Pete, also from operations, look at this snowplow. The optimization of the lagoons is also underway, so the majority of the work still would be completed in the fall of 2026. But with this Hughes funding approved, the project's fully underway, and we're happy to move forward on that. With respect, do you want me to continue, or you want me to stop with operations?
Committee, your thoughts?
You're good? Okay.
Carry on.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. So for the Parks Department, the pool is now the largest project. Of course, we sadly had to close it a week early, but the team basically got every last ounce of anything out of that pool, and we're thankful that they worked so hard to even get it open this year with the state of the filters. So depending on council's wishes, we have moved that project up and figuring might as well do the full gamut of issues in one fall swoop in the spring of next year. An exciting development in parks would be using the actual DC money. So for Willow Run, the mayor has, suggested that would be the trail if he had his way that he would like to promote. Because it is developing so quickly, Willow Run is selling very quickly. The only thing that, with that trail is there's a portion that goes over the river that we would need to have Catfish Creek authorize. And obviously, the design of all that would have to go, we'd have to get a budgetary amount from the design of that. So that would be paid out of DCs though, so that's great news. We did the DC study in 2021 for a reason, and these DCs, they're available, and this would be a trail that would be entirely funded from DCs. Legislative services and corporate services, so we grouped all of these studies because we're all touching them under corporate services. So DC study, water, wastewater study. Ideally, we'd like to have those studies done in 2026, the new rates ready and approved for 2027. So this council and this committee would be a part of that discussion. They'd be a part of the studies. They didn't have the luxury because the last time it was done was 2021, but this would be a great opportunity for council and committee to go through that. And if we're able to tender these projects together, there's a couple input documents related to capital that would hopefully avoid the duplication. So the worst-case scenario, we believe, is in these budget documents. I don't anticipate it would be that much, but again, we'd have to get them tendered to make sure that we're within that budget amount. So also, those studies are funded out of reserves that are not funded through the tax levy. So these are basically funded from current reserves that we've planned for, that we had in the last studies, so it doesn't impact the levy at all. Lastly, the town hall upgrades. So Terry's brought forward reports on this already. We have issues with the town hall building. We have employees that are working in this facility. So we have come up with a budget amount that we believe should be all in for 2026 and would like to move forward with that project. So we have the majority of the team here. And that's all I had for my overview. And I welcome any comments or questions from the committee.
Thanks, Evan. Questions? Member DeRosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions in regard to the Parks and Recreation Department. So that's on page 13, Michelle. The first question is in regard to the trail expansion. I just wanted some clarification on the two expenses. I see one is the pedestrian bridge to the EECC engineering 50,000. That second 50,000 though, that just says Cottonwood to existing trail network. Is that further engineering for that section, or can you explain that? Yes? Okay.
Great question. So the first trail expansion is just the design. We're expecting the cost to be for that preferred trail from, with the pedestrian bridge, so from Willow Run to the ECC. And we've obviously would have to consult several bodies with that. The second is also doing the design for the Cottonwood Trail extension. Terry suggested that we probably do the two together so that it can come before council and you guys can debate and decide, and we get all the costs all together to say what would be the most beneficial for the town, what would the committee and council wish to do, and we know how much these trails are going to cost, and you guys can decide at that point what you'd like to move forward with. So good question.
Just follow up, and thank you for that, Heather. That was perfect. The second question I have is in regard to our largest capital expense here, the outdoor pool upgrades and liners. I've done a little bit of research and found that I believe this would be a candidate for Stream 1 of the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. I do have some contacts at the ministry there and reached out to them to see if there would be another round of funding. And they're expecting there is going to be. So my question to staff would be, is this a possibility? Like, is this something that we could potentially hold on to until we hear that announcement? And is this something we could apply for potential funding?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were also considering that, and I think we've discussed it kind of at the staff level a couple times. I think our one concern is the pool is not functional currently, and if we don't award the project by January, February, it's likely not going to be capital works being done in 2026 to get it open again. So although it is a great grant opportunity, we're kind of reliant on the province to announce another stream will open, and reliant on them to say that they'll actually close it out rather quickly. And our experience, although we were successful with the EECC one, our experience has been that they had significant delays at the province's side in announcing it. So it's almost preferential for us to consider a project that is 2 years out rather than something that needs to be done next year for that grant.
Just to follow up on that, is there any possibility that we could go ahead with it and apply retroactively once we've actually done the project?
No, almost every grant that gets announced by the federal or provincial government is reliant on you not making any expenditure before they make the official announcement. And they check the invoice dates So you can't, there's no way to trick them or fudge it. You basically can't start work before they announce that it's been awarded. So that we are really considering the potential that the government will fund more recreation though, and we're looking forward to them announcing it and looking forward to examining what project fits best. It's just we didn't, it would take some things lining up perfectly for the pool to work.
Thank you. Other questions? Member Oslich.
Mr. Chair, I noticed the duck park is $2,028, $100,000. Can Andy can elaborate that on that?
Certainly if, yeah, that would be, it all depends, I guess it all depends on what the next stream of funding looks like. The last one was rehabilitation focused. If the new one is for new infrastructure, that would be a terrific thing to submit for it.
I have a question for Terry. The replacement of the single axle snowplow. When you think of a snowplow, you almost always think of a tandem axle. Single works for us?
Yes, through the chair, that's a great question. Yes, in this case, it definitely does. This would be, so we have two plows, similar nature. Yes, we find that this works the best for that application, the salt, sand, spreading application.
Would there be anything gained by going to a tandem axle, or does it have a certain loss of perhaps maneuverability as compared to a single axle?
We'll certainly look into it when we go to tender this. We absolutely want the best bang for our buck and the most power that we can get, and the right truck for the application. But in this case, these two trucks, they work very well for what we need them to do around town. So we would be looking at replacing like for like in this situation. But we'll look into every available piece of equipment out there and see if we might want to go with something different when we go to tender it.
Thank you. Member Rahi?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I did have a couple questions about that 5-ton truck, but they were answered in an email previously. It was kind of how low it was on kilometers, but then I saw engine hours of close to 50,000, which is I did see that, correct, right? Yes, and 50,000. 100,000's very low, 50,000's very high, so that was one question I did have, and it got answered previous to the meeting, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Further questions? Member Rossi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one thing that I almost forgot. I wanted to see this committee's appetite for the discussion around the park rehabilitation for 10,000. It's something that we've discussed at the Parks and Beautification level as well, specifically in regard to Kinsman Park. So Kinsman Park is the one that's right near the duck feeding station there. And from our discussions at the Parks and Beautification Committee, this park rehabilitation budget of 10,000 is going towards updating typically the ground fabric for these parks. A similar situation was just done in Balmoral Park, which looks lovely and is way more functional. The problem with Kinsman Park is, from my understanding and from talking to staff, is that there's not proper drainage implemented. And what's happening is, regardless of flooding, regardless of what ground coverage we put down, specifically underneath the slide of Kinsman Park is continually a swamp. So children, even if there's wood chips, they're always getting wet, they're getting muddy. It's not really functional. Kids can't use it without getting messy. Parents are very frustrated. And it's something that I advocated to park staff about, and I wish Susie was here, because I believe she said she thought the cost would be closer to around 30,000 in order to to do it properly, like to correct the drainage and then put proper wood chips down and fix it up. So my question to council was whether or not this was an appetite, if this is something that we could look into increasing or maybe refer for a further staff report if council wishes to have more information on it. I just think it's something that would be a good investment from this council and towards our, the younger generations and younger demographic.
Who would like to answer the question? Heather?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can certainly include, an extra 20,000 for discussion with the team and the mayor and just see how we can fund it. Obviously, another 30,000 would basically come out of the asset management reserve in order to fund that project. But if it's the wishes of this council and this committee, we can certainly include it for the next discussion.
Member Cookett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly have no objection to raising it to $30,000. I do have a question, though, of staff. Do we know that $30,000 will provide a fix? Do we have any information at all in terms of what it would really cost to fix this?
So I haven't talked about this with Susie about this specific issue. What I've talked more about is creating kind of a longer-term plan to do a complete overhaul of a park, which would be, it is substantially more money. So I guess there will be, certainly committee, council can put 30,000 more in the budget. I think we wanted to keep the 10,000 in there to have some additional efforts just around all the parks in town. So I'd suggest if you increase it to 40, and we can do what we want. But I think as we get into further reports that Susie will be doing this fall to council, we'll want to consider whether or not we want to try to do interim fixes or go towards a longer-term kind of overhaul, which would be a more substantial investment and could be something that might be applicable for a grant application as well, if council wanted to consider that. But right now, it's a difficult situation, given the historic underfunding of parks and recreation and the investments that are coming up for next year already, and the past investments that we're making this year in the EECC. So a lot of funds are going towards parks, and I understand that's where the community wants them to go, but it is tough when we're putting that much forward for it.
My question, Councillor DeRosa, or Member DeRosa, clarification, $10,000 is in the budget now. You mentioned 30,000. Was that 30,000 on top of the 10 to a total of 40, or 20,000 on top of the 10 to a total of 30? Just a clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Initially, I was suggesting upping it by 20,000, but if I heard Andy correctly, he thinks, or he believes that there should be still 10,000 allocated towards general parks maintenance, which I also agree with. Again, I think referring it back to staff is probably the key thing to do at this point, and see what comes back, and maybe discuss it from there, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chair.
That makes sense. Does the committee agree? Okay. All right.
Like a resolution?
Pardon me? Resolution, please.
I have something.
Oh,
Yeah.
question? Member Rahi?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I guess it'll be a little bit of a ramble, but it's nice to see that we're finally spending some money on the parks, but the thorn is the $805,000 for just the pool. It is nice that we're, getting into more parks and playgrounds, and I don't want to see us do things twice where, we try to fix the drainage and hopefully maybe we can fix a problem and then redo that whole park, because it is time for it to happen. And then I have maybe an unpopular question that I will ask is, what is, if they did come out with a grant, what is, like, for the pool upgrade, what is the money that we could be talking about, like, ballpark? Would anyone have any idea? Because if it's a substantial number, there may be some value to waiting till waiting and not having the pool open. Not that that's what I would like to do today, but I'm just saying, if it's a 80% grant share, that's a huge amount that we really should be thinking about. So, does anyone know what, like, I know if the grant doesn't come out, but historically, how much do they would they potentially cover? Is there
Andy?
anything there?
So to compare to we think it'll be an opening of the same stream that they did before. That was 73% funding, which was unheard of. It's a large amount, but it was, again, highly competitive. I think they had over $1 billion of requests made for $250 million of funding, and Elmer was one of the fortunate few to have really our pencils sharpened. So I think, although I think the amount will be more in the next fund opening, it's also going to be competitive. So even if we put our best foot forward, I don't think there's any guarantee that we would get the funds.
Thank you.
All right. Member Osmatch.
Mr. Chair, concerning the town upgrades, can the elevator, the grant, the disability grant for the elevator? Is there a grant for the elevator?
Oh, so through you, Mr. Chair. For Old Town Hall,
No, for the whole town hall upgrades.
for the upgrades to put an elevator to make the third floor accessible. I think that would likely have to be part of the longer-term plan for us if we plan to reopen the third floor, which would be a great option. I don't think we're considering that in this. This is just trying to button down the hatches. An elevator would likely have to be an exterior installation to the building. It would change probably the design, and we'd have to consider other aspects of where to put that to make it functional and not disrupt the building. But it is certainly, it would be ideal if we ever wanted to enhance this building to make the third floor usable.
Get back on streaming here again. We were talking about a resolution to add consideration into upping the parks budget. Owen, do you have something?
That the committee refer the item of parks rehabilitation for a report at a future meeting with consideration of an increase to $40,000.
Satisfactory, and would somebody like to move and second it? Member Oslatch, Member Barber. Further discussion? All those in favor? And the motion is carried. And Member Oslatch, you, at some particular future date, you would like consideration to adding an elevator potentially to the town hall, is that correct?
Yeah, well,
At least the discussion.
the elevator, it's going to be made in the town hall in 2030. It's on the town upgrades now.
Okay.
Is there a disability grant for the town hall elevator?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can certainly look into that for 2030. I think the elevator issue, if my recollection is correct, it was something that was proposed for this building in 2018 or 2019, and it was significantly underfunded, I think, at that time. I think we were estimating that it would be something like $250,000. And just considering the cost of an elevator, we saw that it would need to be a longer-term project. But as we get towards it, we'll look for any grants. Yeah.
Further up. The exterior design is not appropriate. The interior design should be considered. So in 2018, we had the basement and the second floor and the third floor. I think it was probably, we came back with $700,000 at that time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anything else, Heather?
No, Mr. Chair, that's all that I had. If council or the committee has any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Do the committee have any other questions at this time? Understanding that this is draft. This will be coming back. Okay. We have a mover and a seconder then. We'll consider the question. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you.
Sorry, we didn't have a mover and seconder.
Oh, did we not? No. How did you miss that? May we have a mover and a seconder, please? My apologies. Member Chapman, Member Rahi. Owen obviously missed it. Okay. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Thanks. I believe that completes the, this agenda. Someone would like to move that we adjourn? Member Roslach? Member Barber? All in favor? And we're adjourned. Thank you.
I'd like to bring this committee to order, noting everyone is here. Begin with a moment of reflection and respect. Okay, thank you. Confirmation of the agenda, mover and seconder. Councillor Rahi, Councillor Barber, all those in favor, is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment scheduled for 7, so we'll return to that when we get to 7 o'clock. So we'll start with the consent agenda, item 6. Mover and seconder. Councillor Chapman, I'm sorry, seconder. Deputy Mayor Barber. Anything you'd like to pull out of there and talk about? Seeing none, all those in favor, and it is carried. Thank you. Item 7, action items, Director of Financial Services, Finance Policies Update. Mover and seconder, Councillor Rosier, Councillor Barber. All right, Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you and to council, this report is a standard yearly financial review for the town's investment policy statement. So presented tonight, noting no major changes other than the fact that we're now using an OCIO. So the investment policy statement is to be reviewed every year as a requirement of the OneGib. As council's aware, we are members of the OneGib. The intent is to keep the current investment amount static for 2026 contributions. I'm not going to suggest we make any changes to the MNRI with the OneGib. I have a review coming up in October with them. So this policy statement will be sent to them by the clerk. So the only reason why I'm not suggesting we change that amount right now is because of the large CapEx items that we're, proposing for, again, this year and 2026. So what I would suggest next year for council consideration for the next term of council is to possibly change that amount. A lot of these tender amounts will come through. A lot of these costs will come through for the water tower, the optimization, all those large projects will come online. So this new investment policy statement basically was, completely changed because of the OCIO comments. But that's just the context that has changed. Overall, there's no other substantial change to this. And it's just essentially, in my opinion, a housekeeping amendment. So I can answer any questions that council may have regarding this.
Thank you. Council? Could you find any more information on this, Heather? And it was several pages to wade through. Very thorough. Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor? Is carried. Thank you. 7.2, Director of Legislative Services, Lighting Nuisance Bylaw, mover and seconder. Councillor Rosier, Councillor Oslach. Owen?
Yes, through the mayor and to council, this report is before council to provide for a bylaw that will address nuisance lighting. The purpose of this bylaw is to fill a gap in our regulatory framework around properties. The town has occasionally received complaints about exterior lighting that spills into neighboring properties. And our existing bylaws do not provide provisions to deal with these issues directly. This does make it difficult for staff to respond in a consistent and enforceable way. The proposed bylaw provides a clear framework to regulate nuisance lighting. It sets out definitions, standards, and enforcement tools, while also allowing for exemptions for reasonable uses of exterior lighting, such as holiday displays, as well as an exemption process where properties can make requests of council for lighting that might violate this policy. We have looked at what other municipalities do in this area. There are two approaches. There's either standalone bylaws that specifically address nuisance lighting, or it is addressed in the property standards bylaw. We're suggesting a standalone bylaw for Elmer, as it will give clearer authority on nuisance lighting, much like we do with a noise bylaw, where we have a specific bylaw for noise. Bylaw enforcement will continue to be complaint-driven, which is consistent with council's direction on other bylaws. We do anticipate there being some challenges with enforcing this bylaw, as for the most part, confirming the impacts of lighting would require our staff to be out at nighttime. But we don't anticipate there being a significant number of cases where we'd have to enforce this bylaw. We are recommending tonight that council just receive it for information and that we'll adopt it at a future meeting of council. And we hope that council can see that this is just a tool for our bylaw enforcement staff to use to address lighting issues as they arise. And I can answer any questions that council may have.
Council? Councilor Oslach?
As an astronomer, I applaud the staff for this bylaw. I would call it a light trespass pollution bylaw. The light disrupts melatonin levels, which speed up more sleep.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you. Understanding that it'll be a complaint-driven bylaw, my concern is that are neighbors going to use this in their toolbox because of a neighborhood dispute as compared to the intent to make it better that somebody's being annoyed by nuisance lighting? How are we going to control that?
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor, there will always be a significant amount of discretion in enforcing these bylaws assigned to the bylaw enforcement officers. If a complaint itself is frivolous, it would be dismissed as such. But if there are merits to the complaints, if there are violations in the bylaw, under the definitions that this bylaw establishes, then our bylaw enforcement officers would recommend remediation to the neighbors, which could simply be a shielding on a light or a redirection of an existing light. But if we're receiving frivolous complaints, the bylaw officers do have the discretion to interpret the bylaw and to take no enforcement action.
Anyone else? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? And the motion is carried. 7.3, I think, yes. Director of Operations and Infrastructure, Spruce Street Townhouse, mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Barber and Councilor Desrosiers. Terry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, this report is really something I would consider a win-win for the town. It's a perfect example of a successful public-private partnership. As you know, staff have been working with a developer on a townhouse development at the old Walker Transport site at 78 Spruce Street. The developer is very close to finalizing the detailed design for the site plan. Staff requested that the design include sidewalk on the west side of the development along Elm Street that will link from the new sidewalk on Spruce Street down to Optimus Park. This section of sidewalk is identified as a priority in the town sidewalk program, and it's a tough location that requires detailed design in order to incorporate sidewalk. There's catch basins off in the grass ditch there, and there's other kind of obstructions that are going to need to be relocated in order to make the sidewalk work. The sidewalk would connect a missing link in the sidewalk system and provide a connection to the new multi-use path system as well. The Development Charge Act allows for DC credits where external work benefits the municipality as a whole. Staff have been coordinating a DC credit for the sidewalk works, but the final approval authority lies with council. If approved, the developer will be required to pay the full DC rate for the development, and that's a key. They still have to pay the full DC rate. The town would then complete a credit for the costs associated with the sidewalk works. Staff would recommend council proceed with the authorization of the DC credit as this infrastructure is required, and the sidewalk would fall under eligible works funded through the DC reserves. This would be another example of how staff and council are willing to work with developers to see the development succeed and improve the municipality as a whole. On that, I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Thank you. Council Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you. I applaud staff and the developer in coming up with a creative solution to this particular challenge. Good work.
Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say the same thing, that to see the town and the developer work together, especially in an area where there's a high traffic, and that sidewalk will be very imperative for the residents of that area.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. I see that we're now turned to 7 o'clock, so we will go back to item 5, delegations and public meetings, a committee of adjustment. First, we need a resolution to recess and commence to enter the committee of adjustment. Mover and seconder, Councillor Srozier and Councillor Chapman. All those in favor? As carried. We're now in the Committee of Adjustment. Let's see. Owen, going to read some information.
Yes. The Committee of Adjustment of the Town of Elmer is convened to consider application for minor variance A04-25. Additional information related to the applications is available for inspections between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. weekdays at Elmer Town Hall. Signed written submissions are accepted by the Secretary Treasurer prior to or during the hearing, and such submissions shall be available for inspection by any party. If a party who is notified does not attend the meeting, the committee can proceed and the party is not entitled to any further notice of hearings. Submissions or requests for notice can be sent to clerks@town.elmer.on.ca. A copy of the decision will be mailed to those persons who have attended or are represented at the hearing and those who have filed a written request with the Secretary for notice of the committee's decision. The committee will receive input in the following order: presentation of the staff report by the Manager of Planning and Development, agent or applicant, the public, and staff or the clerk. Application 04-25 is made by Henry and Susan Redcop as owners of the property known municipally as 71 Rebecca Drive in the town of Elmer. The purpose of the variance is to permit the owners to construct a single detached dwelling on the subject lands with a reduced exterior side yard width. The owners are seeking relief from section 5(3)E, residential type 1 R1 zone exterior side yard width minimum regulation from 7 meters to 5.61 meters to permit a new single detached dwelling.
Thank you, Owen. Could the Manager of Planning and Development please provide a report?
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Committee Adjustment. I just would like to go to Figure 1 of my report, just to familiarize everyone with the location of this property. It's on the corner of Rebecca Drive and Alexander Drive. As you can see, this area is part of the Centennial Estates Phase 2B. There's many homes being constructed in this area at this time. This air photo was taken in 2020, so it's definitely out of date from what you would currently see there out at the property. Moving on to Figure 2, it's the proposed site plan for this property. And it's important for you to know there's an area that's been circled in red. That is the area of the exterior side yard that the owner is not able to meet. If you also look at the lot lines of this property along the exterior side yard, they curve. So they're a little bit irregular from what we normally see on lots here in town. This, that section that you see circled in red is the narrowest portion of the exterior side yard. As you move towards the front of the home, you can see that the exterior side yard greatly widens, especially as you head towards the driveway portion in the front yard of this property. Moving on to consultation, the application was circulated to all staff and to public agencies. No comments of concern were received from either staff or from public agencies. Application was also circulated to all neighboring property owners within 60 meters, and no comments have been received as of this evening. Moving on to the 4 tests of the Planning Act. The first test is a variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan, and yes, it does. This property is designated low-density residential, which permits a variety of housing types, such as what is being proposed, which is a single detached dwelling. The second test is a variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and yes, it does. The property is zoned R1, which permits single detached dwellings. The intent of providing minimum exterior side yard width requirements is to try to promote a consistent building line and to provide for adequate separation from the street in support of public safety. The proposed reduction in the exterior side yard width for this development is quite minimal. Except for the request to reduce the exterior side yard width, the proposal meets all other R1 zone regulations. The third test is a variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings, and yes, it is. Due to the irregular shape of the lot, the proposed single detached dwelling is unable to meet the minimum exterior side yard width in the zoning bylaw. And this is as I mentioned already, at the narrowest part of the yard. The variance will not compromise the existing and what is being proposed development pattern for this area. Lastly, planning staff are satisfied the variance will be an appropriate use of this property. And the fourth and final test is a variance considered minor in nature, and the proposed impact from the variance is minimal with respect to the environment, municipal functions, and surrounding property owners. So in conclusion, the proposed application for the minor variance is desirable for the appropriate development and use of the lands and meets the intent and purpose of the town's official plan policies and zoning bylaw regulations, and recommend that the request for the proposed application for minor variance A05-25 be approved, subject to any concerns coming forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Is the applicant present? Appears not. Thank you. If any members of the public are in attendance and wish to speak, please approach the podium. Seeing none. Has the clerk received any additional communication related to the application?
No.
No. Any questions from council or comments? All right. Seeing none, the committee will now consider the following resolution.
That report Plan 15-25, Planning Evaluation Report, Application for Minor Variance A04-25 regarding 71 Rebecca Drive be received for information, and that the application for minor variance A05-25 seeking relief from Section 3E of the zoning bylaw, that the minimum exterior side yard width shall be 5.61 meters for the proposed single detached dwelling be approved.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Councilor Oslach. All those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. Now we have a resolution to adjourn the committee.
That the committee do now adjourn at 7:07 PM and reconvene as council.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Councilor Barber. All those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. I believe the next item is 7.4. Yes, Public Work Coordinator, tender award. Okay, we have a resolution.
That report operations 17-25 entitled Tender Award 2025 Flushing Camera Sewer Program be received for information, and that council accept the bid submitted by the contractor Badger Infrastructure Solutions in the amount of $31,881.50 excluding HST for the 2025 flush camera non-emergency procedures for the town of Elmer sanitary and storm sewers in accordance with the tender documents, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement with Badger Infrastructure Solutions following the terms and conditions in the tender document.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber and Councilor Chapman, sorry. And Terry, you're doing that?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, this is a fairly standard program and award report. This report relates to the award of the 2026 sewer flushing and camera work, or the CCTV program, as we would relate to it. The flushing and CCTV program is set up for preventative maintenance to clean sewers and inspect where problems may exist. Staff issued the tender for the work and received very favorable pricing. 15 bidders submitted pricing for the work, which is quite substantial. The lowest bidder was Badger. They are our current provider for the service, and staff are happy with the vendor overall. We would recommend proceeding with the contract, and on that, I would be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Council. Councilor Rahi.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just, I find the bids that came in very interesting, how they went from 31,000 to 168,000. It's crazy to influx in those.
It's true. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? And the motion is carried. 7.5, Chief Administrative Officer dealing with Aqua Renewal Resolution.
That report CAO 34-25 respecting Aqua renewal be received for information, and that council endorse the amending agreement with Aqua for a 5-year term.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber, Councilor Chapman. Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, yeah, this has been something that started off in negotiations with Rob and myself in January of this year. We've had numerous meetings with Aqua, and we were very happy that we got them to sharpen their pencils, actually come down in cost, which is unheard of. Although there has been a cost decrease, we anticipate with the introduction of SCADA that we'll likely have more call-outs, so that will likely get absorbed in the first year, but certainly a good outcome for us, and it's great to have Aqua on board while we're doing all the SCADA and Laguna enhancements, because they have such a thorough knowledge of the system. So very happy with the outcomes in ensuring that we've got cost containment on this significant agreement.
Council. Deputy Mayor Drozier, Deputy Mayor, sorry, Councilor Drozier, give you a promotion there.
Yay, thank you so much. Question pertaining to section 4.2. The year one cost is set at $351,000, but years 2 onward are subject to CPI adjustment plus annual insurance adjustments. There's no cap mentioned, which could potentially result in a significant cost increase over the 5-year term. So my first question is, have staff modeled what this could mean in dollar terms year over year based on historical CPI and insurance increases?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we had a lot of discussions with Aqua about it. Aqua has had a challenging few years in terms of commodity prices for their chemicals, and they also had their provincial agency, and they also had significant labor negotiation outcomes. So we tried to put firm caps on it, and they were not willing to do that. They said that every municipality is going to get these same types of terms, but overall, we got a commitment from their regional manager to ensure that they continue to find cost savings and try to work with our team to try to reduce cost wherever possible. So, but historical CPI over the last couple of years has been all over the map. Prior to that, it was generally coming in at less than 2%, but we're hopeful that we can work with them to manage this contract.
Follow-up question, thank you for that. The deductibles are listed at $50,000 per loss across several coverages. I just worry that that level of coverage could leave the town exposed before insurance coverage applies. Can staff confirm whether or not this is industry standard and acceptable for a municipality of Elmer's size?
Through you, certainly Aqua has their own level of deductibles. Elmer has our own insurance deductibles, which are different. We generally don't publicly say what our deductibles are, so I won't now. But yeah, generally, even when I talk to our insurer, anywhere from where we are up to or above 50,000 is generally acceptable for deductibles.
Anyone else? Seeing nothing further, all those in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Item 8, new business and matters of urgency. Seeing none. Reading of bylaws and proceedings thereon. One.
The council gives 3 readings to and approves bylaw 50-25 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 43-24 being a bylaw to adopt the delegation of powers policy, bylaw 51-25 being a bylaw to adopt the significant weather event policy, bylaw 52-25 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at the regular council meeting held on August 13th, 2025, and bylaw 53-25 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the town of Elmer and IntelliVote Systems Incorporated for the provision of intranet and telephone voting services for the 2026 municipal election.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber, Councillor Chapman. Comments or questions from council? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. Item 10, are there any inquiries by members? Councillor Oslach.
Your worship, to Terry, would you give a council on the update on Elm Street?
Sorry, Elm Street?
Elm Street.
Terry, can you do that? Elk, I
Through your
think.
worship, are we referring to Elk Street? The Elk Street reconstruction?
Yeah, sorry, it was Elk.
Yep, that's a good question. It's a good time to give an update, especially with school starting. So Phase 1 has basically been complete to the restoration phase, so they've put sod down the entire phase. That is from Talbot Street to Victoria Street. So they still have some small cleanup items like a couple driveways to touch up and planting trees, things like that. So they've moved to Phase 2. All of the sanitary sewers have been installed. The water main has been installed and is being commissioned as we speak. And they're moving on to the storm sewer installation. So we'd expect that to be done within the next 2 weeks, and they'll start building the road back up and placing curbs and asphalt again. So we're really at the phase where, or the stage of Phase 2, which is Victoria Street to John Street, where they're gonna start building the road back up and putting curbs back in, base asphalt, top, and then eventually top asphalt. So they're right on schedule. It should be paved by October tentatively, weather dependent. And then they can, again, start the restorations on Phase 2. Now, I know the busing has been affected, so we've been working with my big yellow school bus. They're temporarily dropping students on the north side of the public school. So I would urge residents and anyone walking to school to avoid the area still. It's still a active construction zone, and to utilize South Street and the adjacent side streets for the time being. Anticipating that we're hoping to have the road open in the next month or two again, or partially open to local traffic in the next month or two.
Thank you. Councillor Rahi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to, I guess I have a question about Elk Street to Terry. Is it okay if I ask the question? I had a couple people ask me about it would be the east end of it, where it goes on to number 3 and how it's such a tight turn. And there were some concerns about something like our fire ladder truck trying to get around that corner. Was anything talked about with the chief and just the way that was designed, if that would be an issue? I'm sure it's all engineered, but it is pretty tight, just the way it swoops around to it, and it is very narrow.
Yep, through your worship to Councillor Rahi, it has been engineered to take any kind of truck traffic so that trucks can make that turn. I know that was a requirement from the MTO as well, because we had to get a permit from the MTO to ensure that trucks could turn on and off of Elk Street. So it has all been modeled through AutoCAD to, there's essentially a transport truck that you can drive on AutoCAD to make sure that they can make the turn. Now, the fire chief didn't really have any concerns with the design. It's usually sent to to all departments to kind of review. So there was no concern there, but again, it has been all designed to the certain standards for all kinds of truck traffic for a large transport to make that turn. And that was done essentially for a traffic calming measure, specifically requested from the residents there. That's one of the main traffic calming measures to slow people down coming off of Highway 3 there.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
Further to this topic, are we going to put the final layer of, the final lift of asphalt on this year, or wait till the beginning of next year?
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Barber, the intention is to pave the top lift of asphalt this year.
Anyone else? Statements and reports from councilors? Councilor Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to mention the Aylmer and Area Heritage Festival, which is September 19th, 20th, and 21st. Council was very generous in giving us a grant for this event, and we hope to have as many participants out as possible. If you're looking for more information, you can go on Facebook and find Aylmer, the and symbol, Area Heritage Festival, and there will be a breakdown of what's happening on each day.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, report of the mayor. I have a number of items, so I'll try to be brief, although some of the items may not be so brief. First of all, thank you to the Chamber for taking on this festival. It's the first one in a long time, and spanning over 3 days. That's amazing. First of all, I did attend the 25th anniversary of Remtech, which is situated on White Street here in Aylmer. They've been here in town for a number of years, and they really are a state-of-the-art machining operation. And I spent some time talking to the owners and the workers there. They sell currently a lot of their product to Brazil, so it really puts Aylmer on the international map. So it's quite an operation that they have there. And they're very pleased to be in Aylmer. They thought it was a good place to be, and very happy that they had sufficient workers of the kind that is needed for an operation of their kind. Second item I want to deal with is the fundraising. A few people have asked about a fundraising committee, which I withdrew the application for because I felt it was not necessary at this time. It may be in the future sometime, but we're kind of early. We're trying to hurry the process along in terms of getting a design, and we need to hurry this process along because I would like to see before council a conceptual rendered design for council to look at before the end of September, and hopefully before the council meeting, the complex meeting on September the 29th, so that you have an idea of what the library will have in terms of the concepts drawn by the architects. I believe there are a number of people ready to give donations to the library downtown. I wanted to point out what we are doing, what staff have continued to recognize the importance of the library project to our community. At this time, we have staff looking at the town's donation policy, because if we're going to look for donations, we need to fit it into the legal framework of giving donation to the town. So we're looking at the donation policy and determining what updates or project-specific amendments would best support the library project. To do this properly and provide confidence and transparency for donors, we will need to amend our donation policy and establish a clear pledge process. Currently, with no framework to accept donations nor a council-adopted design, it is early to have a formal fundraising campaign. Staff are preparing a report actually for consideration at the next council meeting on September the 17th, and it'll provide options and recommendations how we can move forward. I've already received pledges for a library downtown. I received one the other day in an email for $5,000, providing that the library was downtown. My understanding, there are a number of people out there ready to give pledges. We need a legal and transparent mechanism in order to do that. However, I'm not going to turn down a pledge, so if people want to make further pledges, I'm talking to people out there, of course, if you want to make further pledges, give me an email with the amount, and I'll keep track of that until we have I guess, a legal donation and pledge policy. So that's kind of the explanation on that. The other item I wanted to deal with was, what was it? Oh, AMO. Councillor Chapman, Councillor Desrosiers, and myself recently attended the Association of Municipalities of Ontario Conference, or convention, in Ottawa. AMO, by the way, is Latin for I love. Well, there's a side point, you would know that. But anyway, we went there to strengthen the profile of Elmer and to provide information and background concerning several of our asks. Council approved of 3 official town delegations in which the 3 of us participated, and we were joined by our CAO, Andy Grisel, for those delegations. We, of course, also benefited from speaking to other municipalities and got a good idea of how we stood amongst towns our size. But I could go on a lot about that kind of thing, but I won't. Go back to the delegations. First delegation that we went to was the Ministry of Infrastructure. Currently, we have an application under the Health and Safety Water Systems concerning improvements to the lagoons. So we pointed out that need, and we also pointed out a need for the government to provide a stable and predictable funding system for small communities like Elmer. And we linked the arguments to the government's current stress on housing needs. And I think, exposure is a very important part of being known to the government. And when the bureaucrats who look at our applications know something about your community, it really does help. So it's a very favorable thing for us to do that. The second one was the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, which is Rob Flack. We spoke about the library project. Minister Flack was very knowledgeable about the project. Everything I said he kind of knew about. So, he has his own sources of information, but certainly was very up to date about the library project in total. We brought the minister also up to date on the status of the boundary adjustment. I can't say too much about that because we are currently in negotiations with Malahide concerning the boundary adjustment, but we spoke about the importance of that boundary adjustment because of the Volkswagen plant and the possible Ontario Police College expansion. And so I feel we were very successful in making our case before the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. At the same time, the CEO, Andy, spoke briefly about future representation to the County of Elgin, the County Council. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I will. When you look at the representation of the County of Elgin, the town of Elmer, me, represent the most people of any of the representatives on the county. Now, of course, Malahide has a larger population, but they have 2 representatives. So each representative roughly represents about 5,000 people or so for, Malahide. Central Elgin has 2 representatives, and each one of their representatives represents about 6,000 people. But I represent 8,500. So the town of Elmer really represents a larger number of people in terms of the representatives on county council than anybody else. So I just kind of throw that out there saying, well, these other people have more representatives because they're bigger, but they also have more representatives. Anyway, that was a sideline. The third item that we looked at was the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Gaming. Interesting combination for a ministry, We spoke about the needs of the old town hall and library additions, and we made arguments about heritage and cultural arguments. So, we made ourselves known, I think, to the minister. So it was a successful time in Ottawa. So that's my report. Are there any notices of motion? No meeting closed to the public. We have a motion to adjourn.
That council do now adjourn at 7:29 PM.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Ozak, Councilor Barber. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.